Using VBA, we can also control the font of a cell, be that its boldness, italic, color, typeface, etc. And we can control the background color of a cell or a range of cells by using the font and the interior property of our range object. So if we use the color and font Excel file that is available in your working folder, you'll find we have the skeleton for a sub-procedure called color. And what we're going to use that to do is control the font properties of a given set of cells. So let's set ourselves a range to control, and we'll say it's range A1 to D6. So the top left-hand corner of the sheet. Of that range object, we'd like to control one of the font properties. So we put dot font, and you'll see that that's in the list. Then tab to accept that, and then put another dot. You get all the font properties. So font is sort of acting like an object because it has some properties. Personally, I tend to refer to the font as a property of the range object that then has a series of sub-properties. And these properties that we can control are bold. Now that's a straightforward Boolean option, so we can say true or false. So let's say equals true. Now, in order to make that work, we need to actually run our sub-procedure. So let's put that down there in the immediate window, return to run, and we'll go back to the Excel file. Now you'll see that we cannot determine whether font boldness has been set, except by going to the home ribbon and seeing that bold is on. But if we were to type some entries in, so let's put a bit of variation, some text, some numbers, and then some outside of the range that we've selected, so we can see that it's not affecting those. Now you'll see that at the moment there's some mishmash going on. The boldness has been affected in our little area, but you can see the 89, which is out of our range, is not affected by the boldness, and the Paul is not affected by the boldness. All the cells I've typed in are affected by the boldness, but also some have got underlining and some have got some red font. We can control that, obviously. So let's go back to the VBA editor. So we've set the boldness of all our cells in that range to true. Let's turn the underlining off. So it's the same range. So let's take a bit of copy there. Come back to font and do dot, and you'll see underline is an option. And again, it's a true or false. So let's set that to false. Let's set the color of the same range. Pasting what we have. It's font dot color. Now with color, we can either use one of the VB color constants, which at this stage is the easiest thing to do. So let's go for VB black. Or we can assign a numeric value to the color if we know what the numeric value is, or we can set an actual RGB value. But we're going to come back and just look at those shortly. Let's set this just to VB black for now, and then come down and rerun that. Back into Excel, and we can see that they're now all black, they're not underlined, but they are still bold because we turned bold on, and they're all in black. So we can control the boldness, the underlining, both on and off options, and the color, which takes a constant. We can also control, if you look at the list, things like subscript, you can see that there, superscript, two options that again are yes and no. We can control italic, you can see there, that's in the list, again it's true or false. We can control the font size. Let's make these go slightly different size. All sizes are measured in point size, so all we need to put after the equals is the actual number of points. We don't have to put the measurement system. Let's push the points up to 16. Rerun our sub-procedure, and you'll see that every cell in the range is now up to 16 points. We can change the typeface. So changing the typeface is simply .font dot, and then in our list it's name. Now the name property is a string, so we need to make sure we assign a string value, i.e. it must be in speech marks, and you must supply an existent typeface. So I'm going easy and go for Arial, but let's drop the typeface down to 12. Run that, look at the Excel, and I'm now looking at typeface 12. If we look on the home ribbon, you can see Arial 12, Arial 12, Arial 12. Outside of it, we're still in Calibri 11. So we have quite a lot of control of the font, changing its typeface, its color, its size, underlining, bold, subscript, superscript. pretty much all of those properties that pop up when you do .font and down will pop the properties that you can assign to the font. Now we can also control the background color. So if we take our same range, this time we're not interested in changing the font. We want to change what the VBA refers to as the interior. And of the interior, we want to change the color. And then that equals, here we could use one of our VB constants. So we could choose VB magenta. Run. And you can see the background color, the interior, as far as the VBA is concerned, changes to the given color. Now with colors, you can assign them using the VB constants that we've seen previously, or we can use the RGB function that would allow us, instead of having to know the constants or figuring out what the constants might be or doing a bit of looking up of what the constants might be, we might want to use a specific color. And since 2007, you have a choice of all the RGB colors. So that's all 16,770,216. Obviously, I have that number written down. I don't remember it, but effectively it's 256 to the power of 3. So I now want to assign a specific color to my background color, perhaps to match a corporate report. I would use the RGB built-in function and then supply the element for red, element for green, and element for blue. Those elements are made up of integers from 0 to 255 of that amount of color. So if I wanted pretty much green, I would put 0, 255, 0. So there are the three parameters that feed in to the RGB function, which then creates the color. Let's see what we get here. Some awful green. And there we are, awful green. But you can control this entirely. It's totally under your control. How much red, how much green, how much blue. So you could do the same for the font color as you can for the interior color. So you can see we have not just a bit, but absolute control over the font and the background of each of our ranges. We could take things a step logically further and use our same range, but look at controlling the borders. So we can do our same range dot borders. And what you'll find is that this is also a property with subproperties, and we can go dot, and there's our color of the borders. Use our little RGB function to set up our borders to be 255 red, 0 green, 0 blue, and see what happens when we run this time. No errors. And when we go back to the Excel, we have red borders. So although we're not going to be able to explore every single object that exists for the range object, you can see that through a little bit of experimentation, reading other people's VBA code, seeing what recording a macro gives you, you can figure out how to control different elements of your range, be that the font, the typeface, color, size, the boldness, the borders, the background color.